We believe life can be a journey toward wholeness, toward reconnecting with who we are authentically meant to be. We walk this path of growth and discovery with our children, with our partners, within ourselves. These are the stories of what's possible. These are the conversations that light the way. Welcome to Soul Path Parenting. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is your host, Amy Breeze Cooper. It's been a minute since I've done a solo interview and introed it without Lauren, but here we are. And I have a conversation to share with you that I am really excited about because I just love it when a conversation opens my eyes to a new way of seeing things and understanding ourselves. And that's exactly what meeting today's guest, Tara Vogel, has done for me. Tara is an astrologer and a parenting coach for mindful moms. And early in her parenting journey, she encountered some challenges and came to learn that our natal charts can hold the key to understanding our soul's lesson plan. She'll talk about that story and elaborate more on what she means. I just love this idea of our soul's lesson plan. I will tell you, if I could get my soul's lesson plan and just like print it out and put it on the wall above my desk, that would be really great, right? Every struggle would make sense. It'd be part of the plan. And your natal chart, it may be the closest that we can come to that idea. So that's what we're talking about today, how understanding our own natal charts, our children's natal charts, and really what we're meant to do here in this Earth School, how that can help us to embrace what's happening in our life and really shift us from trying to fix things, trying to change things, into a place of acceptance, which is so powerful. So with that, here's the conversation with Tara. Hello, Tara, and welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I wanted to start out with a question about your personal journey, your personal story around how you discovered astrology and the difference that it's made for your family.
Sure. Well, it started, I was a mom. My son was 3.5, and I gave birth to his sister. And my pregnancy was absolutely, very natural, very crunchy. I had a midwife. We actually were in the hospital, and it was just a beautiful pregnancy and birth. But when Eva was born, which is my second child, I actually have three, but she is my second. Um, she just had some issues. Like, she just wasn't, I mean, we kind of noticed from the moment she came out that she was extremely fussy, and she really had trouble nursing, and we had to go to a lot of lactation consultant support and all this stuff. And that just really went on. Her struggles just really went on for much of her, until she was about 5 years old. I mean, she's still her basically Eva, my middle daughter, her diagnosis is cerebral palsy, but there wasn't anything that happened, during the birth, before the birth. So we just knew that she was struggling. And I thought, okay, well, there's really no cause for her struggle. So I'm just going to fix her. I'm just going to try to figure out what is quote unquote wrong with her, and then work my ass off to fix her. And so that's really what I did until she was about 5. And then we ended up getting a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. They did some MRIs, and, but still I was like, well, there was nothing that really happened. So I'm going to keep trying. And by that point we had, moved to Pennsylvania so she could go to a special school. She could go to a Waldorf school for special needs children. And I was having lunch with some parents, um, at my son's Waldorf school, which there's another Waldorf school there for typically developing children. And they said, oh, hearing about Eva's journey, they said, have you ever had her natal chart read? And I said, what is that? I don't, this, so she's 16 now. So this is 11 years ago. And they said, her astrology chart. And I'm like, what do you, the astrology, like I'm a Capricorn and she's a Pisces. And they, and they explained what a natal chart was. I didn't know up until then. And they said, yeah, there's an astrologer here that could read her chart. So I had her chart read, and he had never met her, and he described her exactly to a T. Now, he didn't say, oh, by the way, your daughter has cerebral palsy, because we can't tell those things from, basically a natal chart, for those listeners that don't know, is a map of where all the planets were in the sky on the day, time, and place you were born. And that it's like your soul's lesson plan in this lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
what your soul has come to do, the kinds of things you're here to experience, the emotions, their gifts, your challenges, your blind spots. So he was basically looking at Eva's, map of where all the planets were in the sky when she was born. And he told me, I think he described her almost to a T. And I was fascinated with, how does this man know that she's so incredibly sensitive that we can't even take her out? She was really, really sensitive. How does he know this? And so I just became obsessed. I learned everything there was under the sun about astrology. And then I just started looking at kids' charts and helping my friends with their kids. And so that was really my journey into astrology. And yeah, so I've been on this journey for, like I said, what, 11 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, as a mom, having that perspective on Ava, how did that how did that impact you, and how might it have shifted your parenting?
Yeah, I stopped I stopped looking at her like she was a project to be worked on, or, something to be fixed, or there was something wrong with her experience she was having. I mean, it didn't stop me from supporting her in her struggles. Like, it's, a child that has cerebral palsy, like they really have to focus on their body in a way that we just take for granted. Like, we just get up and do stuff, and she really needs to focus. So it had me, not look at her, like I said, like something was wrong. And it was the biggest gift that I could have given myself, is just to be at peace and knowing there was something more going on than I could even understand. It sounds crazy, right? How can where the planets are in the sky when we're born tell about us and our soul's journey? But every time I do a reading for someone, it's like, yep, yep, that's it, that's it, that's it. It's crazy how we can know how that can show us about and tell us about ourselves. It's really a
Yeah.
tool for awakening and self-actualization. It's so much more than, just going to hear about yourself. It really gives really insight into your struggles, into your pain points, into your gifts that you can lean into. And so we all have one.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
curious about the impact it might have had for you to see your other two kids' charts. Was there
Yeah.
anything you discovered there that was eye-opening or helpful in some way?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I, had my son's chart read, and then I had my chart read. And, I just, it helps when I had my chart read, first of all, I was a little bit, when you have a kid that struggles, all of my energy really went into that. So I was a little bit off of my path, and I could feel that, but I
Oh,
couldn't really tell. I just thought, I just want to fix my kid and I can't do it. And I'm really frustrated and I'm really kind of unhappy. But it was, no, it was because I really wasn't doing me, like the me that I said I'd come down here on the earth to do. And so I started, aligning more with my chart, and then my life started to feel better. And ultimately I had to make some big decisions about, you know, what my life was looking like and how I wanted it to change. And the more I began to change it, the more at home I felt within myself and like me on my path. So there was that. And that's huge when mom is okay. Mom is at peace with who she is. Her kids feel that, right? It's like
mhm.
our kids aren't they don't enjoy seeing their parents unhappy or self-sacrificing for other people, or pleasing, just trying to keep the peace. So I'm just, doing what I have to do. So it was really helpful for me to get back on my path. And then, just to hear my son, he has a lot of earth in his chart, so he's very practical. And just to hear that, he isn't going to be like such a warm and fuzzy kid. And there wasn't anything that I was doing wrong. It's just not who he is. He has other gifts. He's very practical, very logical and methodical. So, although I knew this, hearing and really hearing his chart read as well, gave me again just permission to be at peace. Like I am trusting, I am allowing who they are. It's funny. It's like our kids show us our own work. And so it's like for him, yeah, it's just, it was such a gift to have each one of my kids' charts read. And it's interesting because in everybody's chart, everybody like we all know that, oh, I'm a Capricorn, you're what are you? What's your sun
I'm a
sign?
Gemini. Yeah.
It's Gemini season right now. Yeah, so your birthday's coming up.
Yep.
So so you're a Gemini. We all know that, but we don't know, most of us don't know we have a moon. And the moon is really important. It tells about what we need to feel safe and nurtured, and it's incredibly useful as parents to know your kid's moon sign. And it also tells their perception of you, right? So you have a bunch of kids, Amy. I know you do. I have three. They all have different moons, yet I'm the same mom. So it's
Yeah.
helpful to know their perception of you and how to work, and to understand how to work with that. It's helpful to know what they need from mom, right? It's like your biggest parenting hack there is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't remember the question because I could go on and on, but did that answer your
That
question?
was perfect because actually it segues into another question that I wanted to ask. So I'm going to share a little bit because I want to share with the listeners that I've had my chart read by you as well as one of my four kids, who's the one that sometimes I refer to on the podcast is the one that tends to be a little more strong-willed, the one that has really challenged me to up my game. And I'm so blessed to have her. And she was the one that I just chose to start with. I intend to have all four and my husband, and we'll do the whole family at some point. But it was such an amazing experience to sit with you for an hour for each of those. And first of all, understand, as you pointed out, there's so much more to this than just your sun sign. And also, you go far beyond the moon. That's, of course, a starting point. It's almost as if it's almost like you speak a foreign language when you're sitting there looking at this chart and like decoding so many things that you see there. I'm wondering, beyond the sun and the moon, if you could share just a little bit more context of the major things that you're looking for there.
Yeah, sure. So everybody also, Mercury in the sky was somewhere in the sky when everybody was born. So Mercury is about your mental body, and it tells, it can tell you as a mom how, but also it can tell you about this in your own chart, how your child thinks, how they communicate, how they learn. It can be incredibly helpful to know your kid's Mercury sign, right? It's like, it's you want to make learning in a way that just resonates with them, so knowing your kid's Mercury sign is really helpful. I tend to focus on the personal planets in a reading for a child, so that sun, moon, Mercury, Venus and Mars, and then also the rising sign, whatever sign was rising on the eastern horizon, what at the daytime and place that they were born. So your, Venus is how and what we love, like how we do relationships, what we need in relationships, what we give, what we take, what we're attracted to, what we desire. And Mars is our male energy. It's how we go about getting what we want. So that is all, that can be also really, it's like what motivates us, eventually it'll be like how we pursue things, as an adult. And yes, that includes sex. So that's like, it's really helpful to kind of know that Mars and Venus, like this is how they're going to, right, male and female, this is how they're going to do relationships. And their rising sign is incredibly important as well. That's just, your rising sign is like your operating system. It's how it's, it's like the kind of the blood that runs through your veins. So I think that many of us, astrology is like becoming a very well-known topic these days.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of us know, oh, Aries, like we tend to know the fire signs, like what an Aries is like. If you're an Aries rising, you have Aries blood running through your veins. So even if you're a sweet Cancer sun, like, Cancer is water, it's very feeling. If you have an Aries rising sign, you're going to have a punch to you. You're going to be intentional and direct and probably early to all events. You like, you want to go at it. You want to get it done. So it can be really, sometimes our rising sign, people will guess like, oh, I bet they're a Leo, and they're actually not a Leo, but their rising is a Leo because it's like how
Mm-hmm.
we occur to people. So all of those things are incredibly helpful for parents to know. And then, in our session, Amy, we got into a little bit. I don't, we got into some aspects made by other planets to the sun, moon, and rising,
Yeah.
your daughter. But yeah, there's a wealth of information there. And like I said, one of what I believe is one of the greatest parenting tools. They do come with instruction books, right?
Yeah.
Don't we say that as parents? Like, wish they came with instruction books. They do. It's called their natal chart.
Yeah. And so for me, what was so powerful about it, to share a little bit of my experience, was within conscious parenting, one of, I think, the most important things that we do, that we're encouraged to do, is accept the as is. We talk about the isness of what's occurring, and also accept our children and create space for them to emerge into who they're meant to be. And so you were saying that having the charts of your children gave you peace. And I really felt the same way about Isla's chart, because it gave me this greater sense of acceptance of who she is. And I'll give a couple of examples because, of course, I've been coached and trained as a conscious parenting coach, but we're all
Mhm.
still in our journey. And when you shared with me some dimensions of who she's meant to be, I found, or who she is, what's in her, as you put it, her soul's lesson plan, and what her gifts are, and challenges, etc. I found that there were things I was resisting that I didn't realize until you said, oh, these are innate to her. And one example is competitiveness. And my husband and I are both, I think, wired to be pretty competitive. And I have judgment about competitiveness because there's sort of two sides to every coin. And our culture has almost this hyper competitive dimension. This, like, if you can't win, if you can't achieve, it's not worth doing, a dimension that can be really counterproductive. So when I saw this competitive streak emerge in my now 6-year-old, I had resistance to it and self blame. I looked at that and I went, oh my gosh, like, she's picking up on the competitive energy of her parents, and I have to somehow mitigate this or message in a different way. And resisting something is just a great way to create more of it, right? And so I've been in this mental dialogue and really this resistance and self blame around competitiveness that I can now see more clearly, that was resisting an aspect of what makes her who she is because of her chart. And when she was born, she comes in innately, authentically, as a determined person, wanting to, as you said, win. Like, there's this energy in her that wants to win. And so me trying to tell her, like, well, it's not about winning, it's about playing the game and enjoying the game. Well, now I'm just trying to parent out of her an aspect of her that I'm resisting because it's the mirror of something I don't like about myself or about culture, that really I'm only resisting because I now have this judgment. Innately, it just is. It doesn't have to be right or wrong or judged. And it just is one, I think, example. We won't go through my daughter's whole chart on this podcast, but I wanted to give a really salient example of how powerfully a chart can impact the parent's lens on who the kid is, and untangling some of the stories and some of the judgment that we create around it.
Yeah, that was a beautiful example because, where we're moving collectively, and we don't feel this right now because in our collective there is so much judgment right now, is this place where there's just acceptance. That's how we ascend. That's how we come back, remember that path, of that heart path. And so, yeah, just accepting them, it's beautiful, because then they grow up with the template of acceptance. Like, I'm just this way. And you know, and we have to be really careful because there's like a little bit of a reprogramming or remembering of who we are, which is not judgmental. It's just, we just are, as you said. So being able to do this for this generation, our future generation, is hugely important. And you also, right. And I love the way she is just showing you yourself, which our kids do. But we also know where to like tread lightly. Like now you're treading lightly around this. I mean, my daughter, we're all very earthy and watery, very feminine. Everybody else in the family is very, a lot of earth and water. So grounded, feminine, we're more internal, and she's fire and air. And she talks all the time. I mean, she's a gift. She's,
She and I should hang out.
oh my God,
Turns
yes,
out I'm all fire and air.
yes. And you both have a lot of air in your chart. And so she could talk forever. And she will just, and, I know her chart. I knew it since she was born. It's just who she is. It's just, and she still will say to me, I'm really talking a lot, Mom. And I know that bothers you. I'm like, oh, like she can, even though I'm so accepting, like I wish I want some air in my chart in my next life. Like, sometimes I wish I just had more stamina with being able to hold conversations. I just need a lot of inward, internal time. So, I hear her say that and I'm like, it's the beautiful thing about you, Grace. You do talk a
Yeah.
lot. Here, that I just said it. You talk like that a lot is a judgment. And I have to watch myself. I even said it when I was, just now, but it's like you do talk and it's the beautiful thing about you. And it's not too much. I'm here, right here with you. I'm listening, and I have to watch myself because it does get to be right. Like I can get saturated very easily. So, sometimes I'll just kind of check out because it can be like I'm just done. I'm full. And then I remember, like, okay, let me take care of myself so I can come back to her with full presence. So it can be really helpful just to know where to tread lightly, where the woundings can happen for them. Because even
Yeah.
if they have conscious parents, it's human design. Like that's just they can happen really deeply and traumatically, or they can just be on the radar. Like that's, I really believe, but we can see it in the chart. Everybody has a Pluto. Everybody has a wound that they come in with. Everybody has a Chiron, which is in the asteroid belt. So it's like that shows the wounding, that they've had in other lives that they're bringing into this. So it's not like it's not going to be there, but we can hold it with care and consciousness and compassion.
I love that. It actually resonates really deep. The specific example you chose resonates really deeply with me. I do believe that we choose our parents, and I chose a family of origin. I don't know all of their elements that they line up with, but I can tell you I was the only extrovert. And I felt in my family like quiet and good went together. And I so I think that because quiet and good were sort of collapsed and I came from a family of introverts, I didn't feel like it was okay to be as expressed as I think I naturally am. And so it's really just so amazing that you have this tool to be able to it's not that quiet is good and it's not that quiet is bad and it's also not that loud or talkative is good or bad, but that there's preferences and different ways of being, and that if we can see those differences and hold space and honor them all, it's just such a powerful tool to the parent to cultivate that just awareness for the kid. So I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I wondered earlier, you mentioned that I have a lot of thoughts and questions about how all of this might work. And when I say all of this, I mean humanness, right? This coming into a body as a soul and having a life and a lesson plan. And you had mentioned earlier in your own journey that you were sort of off course and then you got back on course. And I'm curious if there's anything else you can share about, like, specifically what that looked like, or how you had to adjust, or how you did adjust based on what you learned in your chart.
Um, it wasn't easy because, you know, like I said, we all have the thing that we came in doing, and for me, it was, I just automatically came in with like, I need to take care of the other, and I come second, and that's just, it was just, I actually, I'm a Libra moon, so I did learn this from my mom. Like, I watched her just cater to others, and then like she came second, and so I'm like, okay, but I guess that also, your child's moon also shows their unconscious, like, just default way of being. So it is helpful to know the high road of your child's moon and the low road. And the low road of a Libra moon is just, like I said, others come first. So I was just putting others first, and then I had a daughter with special needs, and oh my gosh, I used to say things like, I shouldn't even have needs because she has so many. Like, I don't
Wow.
have time for my needs. Like, she has so many needs, and I'm her mom, and I love her, and I just want to meet her needs. I'm a very big, proponent of just, baby wearing and nursing, extended nursing. So I was all about meeting my kids' needs, and she had never ending needs, like what it seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
So my needs just
Mm-hmm.
and I just got really and it wasn't Eva's fault. Like, I already was pre-wired for that. You could say we come pre-wired. It's good to know your kids' pre-wiring so you can guide them to the highest expression. And when the lower expression, and I don't say that like the bad expression, it's just, the more dense expression, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
of your child shows up, it's like, of course, it makes sense. There's no judgment. Again, no judgment. It's just what is. And let me help you. Let me support you as I guide you towards the higher. But it's okay. It makes sense where you are. Um, so yeah, I was just doing life for everybody else, and I was just not connected to my path. And it was that astrologer, that really gave me the tough medicine. And I was like, oh boy, like, I don't doubt what you say, Mr. Astrologer, but I'm nowhere near there, and I have no idea how to get there. And then we have this thing called transits where, our natal chart stays the same throughout our whole lives. That snapshot, that imprint of you doesn't change, but the planets in the sky are always moving, and they're touching in with these sensitive points that are us, that are shown by the natal chart. So they give us opportunities to grow, evolve, expand, contract. We don't always like it. Sometimes we love it, but it's like, so I had a few transits that really got me back on my track, on my path, which, it's interesting. We have a bunch of generational transits that happen like in the early 40s, and our society calls them midlife crises, but they're actually planets doing, getting us. It's like, that's when we wake up. I mean, I don't know this
Yeah.
for a fact, but I would guess the divorce rate is really high in early 40s, because it's like when we wake up and say, wait, I'm not, this isn't my life. This isn't what I want. And then if we can just allow that, it helps to have some guidance. So it's, yes, I do have a lot of clients that show up around that time, or just show up. Like, we can basically have big transits anytime in our life. And that's when I tend to have readings, and people schedule readings like, I don't know what's happening. I just don't even know who I am anymore, or I'm really confused. And knowing what transit is happening for you at that time can guide you. So I had a bunch of transits, and, made some big life changes. And then I just found myself. I mean, studying astrology the whole time, that really did help. So I kind
Yeah.
of had like the inside scoop
Yeah,
on
totally.
my, yeah.
I love that. And I want to share just one thought about my own reading that I had with you, which is just how reassuring and inspiring it felt, because you were able to look at, it was uncanny. Like you said, you just spoke to exactly who I feel like I am and who I feel like my daughter is, and in a way that it just is not it cannot be coincidental. And then the things you were able to say, it just felt like it sort of lights a fire under me a little bit, in a way of pointing to the gifts, acknowledging the challenges, and really inspiring me for this next phase of my life, because you were able to sort of look at transits and what's happening even over the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. And I found it just really inspiring.
Yeah, people do. I mean, I think that there's some old just ideas about astrology that, like, oh, I'm going to go, I'm going to find out bad information. I mean, I don't know. I don't think astrologers do that anymore. I think in the ancient times, they had to tell the, all the kings had astrologers. They had to warn the king if they were about to get attacked or something. So they would, and it just kind of stuck in our, in our collective. But astrology can be, getting an astrology reading really, it connects you to yourself. And
Yeah.
whenever we're connected to ourselves, we feel like the world is right. So that's, what you were feeling when you left. Like, yeah, this is who I am. In that 50 minutes that we spent together, I saw you. I saw your soul. I saw your soul's plan, and I just mirrored it back to you. And that feels good. That feels like, okay, the world is good. I'm good. Everything is working as it should.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's for those people that say, like, I don't really believe in astrology, or that sounds kooky. I just say, just go get a reading, find a really good astrologer and get a reading, and
Yeah.
then come back and talk to me.
I love that. That the things that I'm skeptical about, I always go like, "Oh, well then I should try it. Like let's see for
Yeah.
myself." I didn't come in skeptical to this, but I came in more lack of knowledge, like really not understanding it or having had a like profound experience with it. So it's been very cool to prepare for this interview in that way. Um, I wonder if you have other thoughts. You mentioned a misperception that people have about about astrology. What do you wish more people knew about astrology?
Um, that it's not a like we come here with a plan, and there are some things that I do believe that are just, meant to happen. Like, there are fated events. We couldn't stop them if we tried, right? Those of us who've had losses in life, it's like things just happen, and it's sometimes we're like, a divorce is a good example. Like, when you're going through it, it's like, how could this be happening? And then, 10 years out, you look back and you say, I get it now. Couldn't at the time. It was really painful. It was hard, but I understand. But so there's those fated things that I believe that we just come, and it's like we plan. As odd as that sounds, I really do believe that we plan these experiences. And then there are other things that we're here to learn through, like these experiences we're here to learn through, and we have free will and we can say how that's going to go. So let's say if we have a lot of Capricorn in our chart, leaving a legacy and doing really good work and being in integrity. If you have, like, let's say Sun, Moon, and Mercury in Capricorn, you're not going to get away from that. Your career is going to be really important. You're going to be really driven, almost to the point where, right, the low road is that you could be a workaholic. The high road is that you leave something, you leave a legacy for the next generation. So, you're going to do some version of Capricorn. And it's, if you can be guided, and this is where our free will comes in, if you can be guided to know when I'm doing high vibe Capricorn and when I'm doing low vibe, I'm complaining about everyone, I'm saying that I'm too overworked, I have no pleasure in my life. Yeah, that can show up. But you have really important work to do, or you wouldn't have chosen the archetype of Capricorn to learn through in this lifetime. It wouldn't be part of your curriculum. So, it's like, it's not, yes, everything is set in stone and you have no choice. We have free will. We can, and the more we evolve as a consciousness, the more creativity and co-creation that we have. Like when we lived, in the ancient times, we didn't have that. We had to survive. We don't, it's different now.
Yeah,
We're more, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I
it's
know
just
exactly.
different.
I've been
Yeah.
thinking a lot about that because I'm working on a project related to helping people unlock their passions. And it is a privilege
Yeah.
now, where we are as humanity, to be able to even have a conversation about what am I passionate about versus survival? Like, how do I survive? So
Yeah.
I totally, that resonates with me.
Yeah. So it can be a real tool to use for empowerment, to find your passion, to understand yourself better. I mean, it's like when we can understand ourselves, there's that acceptance. And that's when the healing happens. It's like there's the acceptance, there's the connection. Wait, right? We know this from parenting. What is it? I know Dr. Tavalli says this. It's connect and redirect. It's like the connection comes first. So when we can connect to ourselves, I'm doing low vibe Capricorn. I got it. Okay.
Yeah,
So what am I needing inside? How can I meet my own needs? And so it's reparenting is a conversation that I have a lot with my clients because, I'm looking at their soul plan. It's like, this is what you need in this lifetime. And so, yeah, that when you coming back to that question you asked me, when I had my chart read, I really was able to reparent myself so I could just meet my needs so I can be back, on the Tara track rather than,
yeah.
what I was taught or what my parents expected of me or my husband expected of me. So society expects of us.
I love that. And this concept of reparenting, which is really central to conscious parenting, because conscious parenting is all about the parent and
Yeah.
focusing on the parent. And that really is, I think, the best way to describe when we can do as we enter into adulthood and spiritual maturation to reparent our inner child. And our parents don't have to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I think, another powerful tool to help us see and accept who we're really meant to be. Um, I'd like to share a little bit about some of the tools that you have with the parents listening, because one that I would like to highlight is that you do daily, I guess you would say, forecasts or kind of a daily update. I used your daily, would you call it a forecast? Or how
Yeah,
do you
I just
refer
like
to that?
it's kind of like the daily weather report.
Yes.
If you know it's going to be raining, you put your kids in rain boots and a raincoat when they go to school. You're just prepared for it. You kind of know what the vibe of the day is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
use that, especially. I probably don't use it as proactively as you could, or you maybe might want to. I oftentimes will pull it up, which you have from your email list and also on Instagram. And guys listening will have links in the show notes so that you can find these. But I pull it up usually when stuff's going sideways.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
what is the energy on the planet right now? What is happening that, like, everything sort of seems like it's a little off kilter? And then I read your weather report.
Yeah, many parents do that, Amy. So don't think that you're in the minority. And what I love is when they do that and they go and they read what's happening and they're like, now it makes sense. It's like in that moment, right? It makes sense, and it's like, okay, my crazy is now all of a sudden normal. But it helps them to realize that we really are that connected, and we've
Yeah.
lost that connection. And as a consciousness, where we're going is that remembering, that reconnection. And so just to even, that's where I feel like I plant the seed is, yes, we're that connected, and keep looking there, like keep going there, because that's where the healing of our first own self happens. And then ultimately the collective healing that, we're experiencing now, or we have the opportunity to step into now. So yeah, my forecasts can be really helpful. They actually were a result of when I got a divorce and I was a single mom with three kids, and for reasons, I mean, my kids have a great dad, but they were with me a lot, and we were. It was kind of like we were in this cauldron of, like, it was me, the three kids. Eva used to have a lot of support, and just for circumstances couldn't have that support anymore. So it was like, oh my God, not only am I like a single mom, but I don't have any support. So I was drowning. I was just like really struggling. And in the morning, I would think, okay, now where's the moon today? Okay, it's in Virgo. So it's like, okay, this is what the day is going to be like. And then I just would think that and I would kind of plan my day around that. And then it just occurred to me one day, I just got a big download like this tarot, this would be really helpful for other moms to use it to parent their kids each day. So I just started posting on Instagram and then it became a thing. And then, I have a lot of followers now who just religiously show up just to get the what's happening today and how can I flow with it? Because if we can just what you talked about with resistance in the beginning,
Yeah.
if we resist, we just get more of that. If we flow, we get more of that. And that feels really easy.
Yeah.
Parenting can be freaking hard, right? We know that. So it's like, how can I make it easier? How can I make my day easier? How can I make it more joyful? And
Yeah.
so
For me,
knowing,
it's a tool of shifting into acceptance.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, like when the moon is in Aries, you can't expect everyone to be all peaceful and zen. It's not the weather. It's like going outside when it's pouring down raining and expecting it to be sunny. It's not. So the acceptance is it's raining. It's pouring down. So how can
Yeah.
I just flow with that?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So where do people find that?
So I post every day on Instagram at Luminary Parenting, but then I also, if you get on my email list, I send you the post a week ahead of time for those of us who like to look ahead, like, oh, I have a big weekend, a big like family reunion this weekend. What's happening in the sky? They can have that also. And then I also have an ebook that's really fun on my website. Just what does your sun sign say about how you're going to parent, like what kind of mom or dad you will be. So that can be fun for people to read.
I love that. What's one of the most powerful lessons that your parenting journey has taught you?
That nothing is wrong. It's yeah, that nothing is wrong. There's just a disconnection that's happening. So in any moment or however my child is being or whatever's happening, it's like, how can I get reconnected? How can I get reconnected? In the first place is the reconnection with yourself. So that's where knowing your natal chart and really understanding your moon, because that's your moon. I know we always talk about our sun sign, but our moon is how we get our needs met. It's what we need. It's what we need to feel happy and content. Where we can feel safe and comfortable. So it really is like we just don't speak of that, but it's like my personal mission to get it to have that be more known.
Mhm.
So really saying how can I reconnect to myself, and then like if you're having a situation with your kid, where how can I reconnect with them, and knowing their moon sign, it's like their love language. I mean that's it could be an easy way to say it, is like knowing their moon sign helps them, like what are they needing right now, meeting that need, and then the connection happens, and then it's like the repair can come right from the disconnection. So it's kind of it's really like that bigger picture of nothing's wrong, there's just an opportunity, and the first is the opportunity to connect,
Yeah,
and then it all unfolds from there.
I love that so much that there's nothing wrong. That's
Yeah, and even, for your kids, it's like, okay, they're being a certain way. Like my daughter talks a lot. There's nothing
yeah.
wrong. It's just how can I honor that? How can I connect to that? Sometimes I can't, because I my needs have taken over. Like, right, I think we devalue that as parents,
Mhm.
or we make that bad or something. I certainly did. So nothing's wrong, but we're just how can we get reconnected?
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that would be it.
I love that. And my last question, um, really kind of fundamental to the podcast is this intention to set our kids up to live their best lives, and I'm wondering what you think the most important thing we can do is to set our kids up to live their best lives, to really
Mhm.
be their authentic selves.
Yeah, just to in every moment that is humanly possible, right? Where we are humans and we do make mistakes, is just to meet them to meet them where they are, to meet them with what's happening, to mirror back to them. I see you. And you're so curious. I love all your questions. You're so curious and inquisitive and smart and really, but like making it that it's just, you're just witnessing them. You're not praising them. You're not like over the top about that. Like you're just meeting them. And the more we can just see them, the more, they just are allowed to be. And then they just grow up being, who they are. So, yeah, meeting them, witnessing them, reaffirming them, like, and so you can feel how knowing their soul's lesson plan, just reaffirming that, there are kids that come with they're like when you have a lot of one element, you're a kid and you have a lot of one element. If that element happens to be water and you're super sensitive, like, our society is not, like, does not fully welcome those those of us who are empaths. Like, we kind of feel like something's wrong with us. So, but honoring their sensitivity, or if they have a lot of fire, it's like we don't always honor that either, because they can be a lot, they can be loud. Sometimes we label them, we actually medicate them, sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not okay. I'm The way that I am is not okay. And so having that inside scoop can really, like, you just kind of like, of course, like, there have been no parents ever that I've had a reading with for their child. I have a reading with the parent, the child isn't there. I mean, I do readings for older teens if they're interested.
Hmm.
But so I have it with the parent for their child. And it's like, no parent has ever said, no, no, that doesn't really resonate. Nope, that's not how they are. So I'm just reading the symbols on their chart, but it's like, oh my God, that's exactly who they are. Oh my God, yes, so they've actually come to do this. This thing drives me crazy,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. Let me look at your chart, and then we see how that, like, goes together. But so it's, yeah, it's just allowing connection, honoring. So, yeah.
So beautiful. I loved this conversation, and it just brings such a tangible dimension to what we're trying to do within conscious parenting. So, thank you
Yeah.
for coming on the show today to talk about it.
Yeah, you're welcome, Amy. Thank you for having me.
This has been great. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. And if you would like more information on Tara and her very helpful forecasts, check out Luminary Parenting on Instagram or her website, taravogel.com. Thank you for listening. We'll talk with you again in a couple weeks. Bye for now.